Welcome to Women at the Top, where we share professional journeys to inspire yours.
Hello, I'm your host, Max Zhang, founder of Human Prosperity. Today, I'm excited to have Elena on the show. Elena, can you please introduce yourself?
Of course. First of all, thank you very much, Max, for the invitation and for having me in this amazing and very inspirational show. So I'm Elena Boutsikari. I'm a medical statistician and AI advisor, mostly in biostatistics. And I am working at the intersection of evidence, regulation, and real-world impact. My path spans clinical trials, mainly WHO projects, surveys, psychometrics, and population health research with more than 14 years across academia, global health, and industry. So I remain in research, data, and in the past, physical therapy position. I started as an active field physical therapist. But the reality is that I really started as a restaurant personnel more than 15 years ago. And since back then, I knew that I wanted to do something, meaningful with my life. I wanted to have purpose, to remove identity friction, and to reach at some point that I will say, okay, now I have freedom, options, and success. But we will dig into that more as the discussion proceeds.
That's amazing. Definitely, it's so important to understand your why. That's when you can actually have the internal force to actually move things forward. So I kind of want to know, some of your top accomplishments.
So first of all, I have served as a WHO biostatistician for more than 2 years, contributing in high-impact, high-level analysis, which had to do mainly with patient safety, patient satisfaction across the globe, and mainly in Europe, US, Asia, and some local ones in Greece. Another accomplishment which I consider as huge is my collaboration with the Western University in Canada, where I started as a junior biostatistician, and now I am a co-principal investigator in studying emerging infectious diseases. It's a grant, which means it is an award for my team, and I really, really am very proud for that long-term collaboration. So this is regarding the last years. If we go 5 years backwards, one of my greatest accomplishments is that I served as a regional manager or a principal data analyst, it's an equivalent title, in the private sector. And I managed, to put things into perspective regarding the industry that I was working for. We've had certain challenges, we overcame them, so everything was performed far above and more than initially estimated. And if we go 10 or 15 years, even more backwards, I think my biggest accomplishment is that I believed in myself. I have experienced real challenges in my childhood, such as poverty, for example, or scarcity mindset, my whole generation, I would say. But this is a very limiting environment for a person to transcend it. And, even to think that one can transcend it is a real accomplishment. So I would start from that as the most important. And then I would describe the other 2 or 3 that we discussed about.
Yeah, amazing. So definitely agree on the internal belief, the internal limiting belief. That's one of the things that's holding pretty much everyone back. So
exactly.
And once you actually have able to change that limiting belief inside into empowering one, and that's when your life changes completely. Mm-hmm. Tell me, how did you, break through that limiting belief into empowering one? How did you make that shift?
Max, I think this is one of the most critical points in career and personal development nowadays. So most of us, in my environment, in my country, were raised through limiting beliefs because our parents were raised by people who went to the war. So, an adequate, inadequate circumstance was that we had food, we had roof, we had water, and we were able to go to school and have clothes. So this was it. What was really popular back then as an opinion was the fact that, I quote, you don't have to like your job. It's a job, you go for 8 hours, and then you get back, and then you find something that you like. So this was the very first red flag in my head. Even as an adolescent, I remember myself thinking that this doesn't feel normal. I cannot believe that. I cannot believe how a person can devote 8 hours per day in something that they don't like. And then I was looking around in television, in books. I was looking around and I was listening about people who managed to transcend these environments, similar environments. So it all started around 20 years of age for me when I started to do psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, because from my early adolescence, I believed, one of my core beliefs was that it's all about the mindset. If I put a ceiling to myself, then I will never overcome that ceiling, no matter how many people around me believed otherwise. So everyone around me back then, I remember that they believed in luck. So whoever was free, whoever made money was lucky. That was the popular belief. So this was something that my very core, my core belief could not digest. I never believed that. So the answer to the question is psychoanalysis. We have first to find who we are, and then we can take it from there.
Definitely, it's all about starting with understanding yourself first. So without understanding, without awareness,
Exactly.
you cannot move on to the next phase, which is, truly to make a change. It's great that, you make that change, make that shift, so that you can actually become the amazing person that you are today. So going back to your career. So in terms of, right now you're a principal biostatistician. So, get to the principal level, this requires quite a bit of effort, from a senior level or even starting out. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you, got into the field and then how you go about progressing from junior position to mid-level to a senior and to a principal?
Of course. So I started, as I said, as a restaurant personnel during my studies as a physical therapist. So what I thought back then is that, well, there is a Greek saying which goes like, if we don't look where we want to go, we will eventually end up where we look. Which means that back then I said to myself, okay, so I don't have options. I have to have an income and I have to study. So I will make sure that I will take soft skills from my job and then make them compound when I managed to become a physical therapist, when I changed job. So this was my first, my first change without a safety net. I left one job for looking for the other one. I stopped being a restaurant personnel so that I can focus on preparing for physical therapy interviews and reading extra books and taking acupuncture courses and making sure that I earn and conquer the fundamentals of the goal. So then I had some interviews, then I got my first job. But I still knew that I wanted more. I still knew that this job was not very much aligned with my values, with my scientific curiosity, with many parts of myself. So I started again in my free time, which was minimal. I mean, I had 1 or 2 free hours per day. So I started looking at opportunities, at master's degrees, at courses, at titles, job titles via LinkedIn. So I started looking what would resonate with me, with my scientific curiosity, with my needs, with my core values, with my traits. So eventually I returned back to mathematics, which was my biggest love during the school years. I took the decision again to, without safety net, again, to stop being a physical therapist so that I become a biostatistics student. It's one of the hardest decisions I've ever made. It took place during COVID, actually. It was a big risk staying without a job for a certain amount of time, but I think the return was huge because it was back then that my academic collaborations exploded. It was back then that my collaborations with the private sector exploded, and it was back then when WHO accepted me as a junior member back then. Simultaneously, before WHO, I started serving as a clinical trial monitor because I thought of it as an intermediate step in my entrance to the private sector, into the clinical trial processes, because this is what I eventually knew that I wanted to do. So the pattern in the secret, if I can say so, is that we need to think what will happen when we choose certain things in the long term. We may not have, instant results from an action, but by taking a course or by collaborating with somebody or a university, which mostly the university job is mostly done pro bono, but it gives back impact, it gives back collaborations, it gives back leverage. So going back to what I started saying, I think the biggest secret in climbing the corporate, the personal, any ladder is having the eyes to the goal and taking, the little pieces that we need to climb this ladder from every possible opportunity, lesson, person, and experience around us. But the most important thing is having our eyes to the goal. And even if we don't know how the final goal is really shaped, even if we don't know every piece of it, for example, I didn't know back then that I would want to be a WHO biostatistician and a global advisor, but I knew, that my North Star was near mathematics and research. So this one hint of our identity, of the identity of our goal, this one hint is enough so that we keep our eyes on the goal. So this is pretty much what was done. And well, I hope it will continue to work that way, because it keeps proving to me that there is no such thing as pure luck. Our fate is in our own very hands.
Yeah, 100%. And, as you said, it is just starting out with having that specific vision about what you want. Because if you don't know what you want, you really cannot go there. So, exactly. And sometimes, it's just because you actually know what you want doesn't mean that you have to know every single detail. And a lot of times, people are kind of gets stuck because you need to figure out everything. But just having that North Star, that's the rough idea, the specific closeness in terms of your specific one passion you have. And once you have that, just keep on heading towards that direction as you have done. So, and it's just a matter of taking, one small step at a time, a little bit each time, and you're slowly, or eventually you'll always get there. So, that's amazing. And I just kind of want to know more about your passion. Where did it come from?
This is one of my very first, I'm about to recall one of my very, very first memories as a kid. Back then, my beloved grandfather kept telling me that you need to be curious, in the good sense, of course. You need to be curious about the world. You need to be curious about yourself. You need to know why you're doing everything you're doing. You need to be purposeful. So back then, he meant that we need to act, of course, with intention. And this is something that I think shaped my whole personality. So this is the part regarding the curiosity, the scientific curiosity. Mathematics, for some reason, were always my favorite hobby, my favorite class lesson, my favorite thing when, giving exams. It's something that I can't really explain. It's, I think, a part of my, identity, my way of thinking. But again, this passion, this part of my identity is rooted back in my childhood. But the most important thing here for me and for everyone is allowing ourselves to be and keeping discipline as our best friend. So the passion is a passion, of course, but we have to make really good use of it so that we feel fulfilled. So this is the answer to your question, but if you will allow me, in order to use a passion and make it a really high-level advantage, several traits are also required. For example, we need to work with strict prioritization. We need to work with structured thinking. We need to prepare deeply before decisions or discussions. We need to protect focus time. And of course, we need to be consistent, first of all, to ourselves. So passion, along with these choices or traits, you name it, is, I think, the perfect combination to achieve anything.
Yeah, definitely. That it's passion alone, kind of gets the fire started. But you just need to have a lot of structure around the fire to keep it. I am curious though, in terms of your passion, because a lot of times I have my passion, in my past, and sometimes it kind of goes up and kind of goes down, and sometimes they die out as well. How did you go about rekindling it and keeping it up?
So we are talking about discipline and motivation here. I believe this is that's the answer here. So of course, the passion can be less intense when challenges surface, either professional challenges or personal or both. Burnout is real. It has happened to all of us. And during burnout, we really are disconnected from reality, from our passions, from clear thinking in decisions, and so on. I think maintaining the passion, maintaining scientific rigor, maintaining scientific curiosity, and everything that is under the umbrella of each one's passion is discipline. Because the thing is that we have to set our default to action. And if we prove ourselves that we act, no matter what, no matter our emotions, no matter our feelings, no matter the safety that our gut feelings tell us every morning, so that we stay in our bed or hit snooze in the alarm and do all the stuff. So no matter what, we need to set default to action. We need to prove ourselves that we act despite everything else. And then motivation comes back. And along with motivation, passion comes back. So again, it is the triangulation: motivation, discipline, consistency. If we realize that everything is in our hands, then passion remains there, action remains there. It's, like the famous quote, we don't rise to the levels of our goals, we fall to the levels of our systems. So passion is a good thing for me, but my systems are far more important.
100%. Yeah, it's awesome that you have a pretty nice triangular system over there based on passion, motivation, and discipline. And that is really the key there, just having that discipline and motivation to back up passion, so to make it actually going. And of course, at the center of it is as you mentioned, curiosity. That is the root of the passion, and how you can actually really grow and continue to grow your passion. So that's awesome. And of course, throughout your career, I'm sure there's also many challenges as well. So can you tell us a little bit more about some of the challenges you have gone through and how you overcame them?
One of the most common challenges, especially in data-related environments and managerial positions, is the fragmented systems and the fragmented data pipelines with different incentives. That's a big reality, especially in the private sector. But it can be, one can overcome it with, again, a strict plan. So when it comes to challenges, again, the first thing we have to understand is what's the goal. The next, what's the root cause? So the so-called root cause analysis, we need to find out the causes. And then, the path somehow reveals itself. So during the course of handling a challenge, and I personally prefer the word lesson, not the word challenge. It wires my brain in a different way, in a more positive way. So it's easier for me to handle anything. So when it comes to overcome a challenge, there is no perfect decision from the beginning. You make the decision and then you make it perfect. So that's one thing that is I use as a general rule. So the other the other challenge is maintaining scientific rigor under real world constraints. So oftentimes, as you may very well recall, we have in our hands data sets that are not fit for purpose, which means we have data that do not answer the intended scientific questions. So in that case, this is not correct, but this is our best option. We try to adjust the analysis in a way that match to the degree that it is possible the initial scientific questions. That's very usual. It has a very simple solution, and that is a discussion with the scientific team for the biostatistician's early involvement in the next steps. Because as Fisher said, a famous biostatistician, if you call the biostats at the end, all they can do is a post-mortem examination of the experiment. You know, this has a very, very strong also part, which has to do with soft skills. Learning to say no. Because when, quality is jeopardized, we have to learn to say no. We cannot prefer quantity in saving deadlines over data quality. And the third one is, it has to do with gender equity. I believe it is experienced by many women, especially in my country. I've heard it numerous times. I believe it is better throughout the last years, is that somehow there is a silent assignment of tasks between genders. Not in specific settings or domains, but in general, people have the tendency to align administrative tasks, females, higher level tasks with males by default. But this is a huge mismatch that eventually leads to burnout. And again, this has to do with learning how to say no, but we have a long way. I will say again that we have a long way until we achieve real gender equity. The workplace, in microtasks, in decisions, in everything. So these are the three biggest challenges that I face in day-to-day practice. And they all have solutions. But of course, discipline and patience are really the cornerstone of handling them.
Definitely. It's all about understanding, really deeply understanding, what the core problem is. And once you actually understand the core problem 100%, then the solution most of the time comes naturally. In terms of your performance, I want to know what are some of your daily habits that allow you to achieve high performance?
I deeply prepare, as previously said, for discussions and for decisions. So I have, that's my golden rule of 3. So the first is that I protect my time and my energy as if they were gold. So for example, I never use my mind to store things, to remember facts, to remember birthdays. I have a calendar for that, which I strictly audit. So I keep my mind clean for reasoning and thinking. And the third one is that I have removed, to the degree that it is possible, decision burnout, micro decisions. So what will I eat? No, I have a strict meal plan. What will I wear? I don't have that. All my clothes are black for the moment. What will I do tomorrow or the day after tomorrow? No, I don't have that. I have done a weekly planning system. And every Sunday, I audit my previous week, and then I plan my next one. So I have removed the friction of this constant decision-making of simple or bigger tasks. And it really, really works pretty good, Max. I feel that my performance is 400% better. And of course, I have a very, very good diet and sleep schedule to the degree that it is possible, but it's not very popular yet in our days. But no matter what a person with iron deficiency, for example, do, no matter what performance hack or schedule or sleep change, it won't work, because our body is the $1 million machine that we have to take care of before everything else. And then, we can take care of the performance hacks and metrics and habits. So I would say, again, that the secret lies in the fundamentals: health, mental health protection, and simple core values that will compound eventually.
Yeah, definitely agree on that. And as I said, it's the decision making. A lot of times we just have to make so many decisions throughout the day, and after you make so many decisions, eventually you just tire out. And, this is a fairly common pattern, which is commonly known as the decision fatigue. So, and it's great that you have a system, that combats that by simply just making the daily decisions to be not a decision anymore. So,
exactly.
So that you can actually focus all your energy on the important pieces. Awesome. So one last question for you. What's next? What is your dream?
So for the moment, I am a product CEO in stealth mode. I'm preparing something that has to do with scaling trustworthy analytics in the era of AI. And thank you very much for the opportunity to answer these questions. I was looking forward to it. So I really dream a world where evidence systems can be trusted by decision makers, by data analysis people, by VPs, by everyone. Because for the moment, as I previously said, we really have fragmented systems, and all they support most of the times is rework and delays and poor data quality. But all this process has a huge impact on patient safety, first of all. So my dream has to do with clinical, regulatory, and policy contexts. But in reality, my dream is impact beyond individual projects. I would like quality decisions in data, in clinical data, to become the default. So I'm prepping something. I have a plan for the next 10 years. And I really, really hope I will do the best for it to be successful.
Amazing. That's definitely an amazing dream. And I'm sure you will with your system. So
thank you, Max.
So thank you for sharing your journey to inspire others.
Thank you for having me, for the amazing discussion, and for the invitation. And congratulations on your very, very inspiring show.
For listening, and hope that inspired you to reach the top. To get some help, check out our free services at humanprosperity.io.